Welcome to The American Story. Stories about all the things that make America the country we know and love. Revolutionary War soldier, 21-year-old Nathan Hale, was hanged by the British as a spy on September 22, 1776. His famous last words have reminded every generation of Americans since of their duty to keep the country worthy of the last full measure of devotion. This is Chris Flannery with the Claremont Institute. I call this one, What's Love Got to Do with It? We hear a lot about the crisis of American civic education. Every year around the start of the fall semester, I hear reports about another study demonstrating again how ignorant American high school graduates and even college graduates are about their country's history and government. Most of us can cite examples that make you laugh or weep depending on your mood. People don't know how many senators there are from each state or what the Bill of Rights is. One recent study alleged that 10% of college graduates, not high school graduates, college graduates, thought Judge Judy was on the Supreme Court. And it is true that our schools and colleges have been failing for many years to teach American history and government adequately. This is a very serious and a very important failure. But I think that our crisis, which we do have, is not essentially a crisis of information or of factual knowledge. It seems to me it is more a crisis of understanding and disposition. Even as odd as it sounds, a crisis of love. Civic education, by definition, is not about mere accumulation of knowledge, however important that is. Civic education is by definition practical. It is the education of citizens. It aims at equipping citizens not just to know, but to do what is good for themselves and their country under the circumstances they find themselves in. We all know, or used to know, the story of Nathan Hale. Nathan Hale was a 21-year-old Connecticut boy in 1776. He was serving in the Continental Army during the American War of Independence. George Washington needed someone to spy on British troop movements behind enemy lines in New York. Nathan Hale volunteered for that job. He was caught by the British. The penalty for espionage was death by hanging, and he was hanged. Most memorably, as legend has it, he said on his way to the scaffold the famous words, "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." America will always need Nathan Hales. Every country does. In Abraham Lincoln's words at Gettysburg, America will always need citizens willing to give the last full measure of devotion for their country's cause. If you are an immigrant seeking citizenship in the United States today, you have to take an oath of naturalization, part of which is an oath that you will bear arms if necessary in defense of the Constitution of the United States. This means you have to be willing to be a Nathan Hale. Those of us who are native citizens live under the obligation of the same oath, even if we don't explicitly take it. Each of us is pledged to all, and all are pledged to each, to defend our lives and liberties as Americans when needed. Because of these facts, which are facts in every generation of American life, the most essential duty of citizenship is to keep the country worthy of the last full measure of devotion. In every generation, it is usually a small percentage of our citizens who must offer and give this measure. These are usually young. They used to be young men. Now, of course, they are young men and women. For all the rest of us, that is the vast majority, our first duty as citizens is to keep the country worthy of such sacrifices. And this means that the first duty of civic education is to teach each new generation of Americans what it is about the country that makes it worthy of such sacrifices. Or in my odd way of putting it, what is the essential and beautiful goodness in the country that makes it worthy of love? Understanding this and helping others understand it is the most important work in America. Thanks for being part of the American Story. This is Chris Flannery with the Claremont Institute. I encourage you to visit our website, theamericanstorypodcast.org, to learn more about these stories and how you might support them. That's theamericanstorypodcast.org.